Norwegian Cruise Lines is finally coming clean about what happened aboard the Norwegian Breakaway. Plus, we found new details that point to the fact that the new Omicron variant has been found on board that very ship. Royal Caribbean has updated their pre-cruise testing policy. We'll give you everything you need to know. Carnival Cruise Line has announced a cruise director and an entertainment director for the brand new Carnival Radiance. Plus, a photo is circulating the internet showing a cruise ship hovering over top of the ocean like it's floating in thin air. Let's find out a little bit more about that. All this coming up on Midships. Hey, welcome to the Midships YouTube channel. I'm your Captain Corey, and thank you so much for stopping back to the channel again today. Well, as you can see, I am finally back in Orlando, Florida. I recently cruised aboard Royal Caribbean's Adventure of the Seas, and it took me almost the entire day to get home yesterday. I had nearly an 11-hour layover at Houston Hobbies Airport. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get on an earlier flight like I had anticipated being able to do so. So I had to get off the ship around 9 a.m. and head to the airport. And there I waited hour after hour until my 8 p.m. flight back to Orlando. But all in all, I really enjoyed my time with Royal Caribbean, and I'd like to show you some of the highlights from the trip. Now, Adventure of the Seas is a little bit older cruise ship. She entered service back in 2001. Now, she is in the Voyager class of ships, and she holds approximately 3,800 guests. Now, some notable places that I want to show you on the ship are, of course, the promenade, which Royal Caribbean had all decorated for Christmas. It was absolutely beautiful in there. You can see the super tall Christmas tree. I want to say that's 3 or 4 decks high. When I first arrived on the ship, they must have just put up the decor for our cruise because it was ringed with poinsettias. Now, because of that, there was hardly any room to walk around the Christmas tree at all. And by the end of the cruise, those poinsettias had sort of been scaled back a little bit, so you could finally walk through the promenade and enjoy everything in there, from the pizza to the shopping to the live entertainment that Royal Caribbean is known for. Now we can take things up a little bit higher and head up to the pool deck here on Adventure of the Seas. Now, I had expected the ship to have been amplified by Royal Caribbean while she was in dry dock, so I was not expecting to have the older pool deck still installed here on Adventure of the Seas. But as you can see, it is still the same pool deck that's been on the ship for several years now. Now, with that said, it's still a very functional environment, and it was really great to get to be able to sit in the hot tubs with a little shade canopy over top and enjoy a good football game on board the ship. Now, one of my favorite places aboard Adventure of the Seas was way up on the top deck. And in fact, I was up there while we were in Costa Maya, and we had a fantastic view of another Royal Caribbean ship, Oasis of the Seas, as she was docked right next to us in port. And then again, as she sailed off into the distance, it was just a fantastic view. And being up that high, you could really see far off into the distance. Now, some other really cool places on board the ship are, of course, way up at the bow of the ship. You can get down onto the helicopter pad. Now, this area is accessible from deck 4. Now, the cool part about deck 4 is it walks all the way around the outside of the ship. You do not have to go inside at all. You can get from bow to stern on deck 4. Now, of course, on deck 4, you do have to take stairs to get up into the front of the ship onto that bow section. However, I still consider that deck 4 because I'm not really sure if that's included on deck 5, since there's no direct passenger access on deck 5 to the helipad. And one of the other really cool spots that sets Royal Caribbean ships apart from most other cruise ships, of course, are the flow riders. Now, these can be found at the rear of the ship. A lot of people refer to that by a nautical term called the stern, and this is a fantastic place to go ahead and watch other cruisers just go ahead and have a wonderful time. Now, on my cruise, there were some extremely talented riders here on the flow rider, and of course, you're seeing some of them now. Now, I do not fall into the category of those extremely talented at riding the flow rider, which is why you've never seen me and likely never will see me catching the waves on the flow rider. So that's just a little peek into my experiences aboard Royal Caribbean's Adventure of the Seas. In the coming days and weeks, I hope to put together a more thorough video of what you can expect aboard Adventure of the Seas. Now it's time to hop into today's cruise news, and our first story is coming out of Carnival Cruise Lines. They have a new ship. Well, actually, she's kind of a refurbished ship, but they really spent some money on her, and they've recently announced some new key roles for cruise director and entertainment director. Let's learn a little bit more from cruiseindustynews.com. Carnival Cruise Line announces new cruise director and entertainment director duo for the Carnival Radiance. And here are the lucky gentlemen in question here. Carnival has announced that Ryan Rose will be the cruise director, and Bradley Cripps will function as the entertainment director for the ship's inaugural season. According to a press release, the New York native, Ryan Rose, pictured on the left, joined the company as host DJ and Fun Squad member in 2015, and most recently served as cruise director aboard the Carnival Inspiration. Completing the duo, Bradley Cripps, pictured here on the right, will spearhead Carnival Radiance's entertainment offerings. The Radiance will mark her return to SoCal sailing with her debut on Monday, December 13th. And of course, the Radiance features the latest and greatest coming out of Carnival Cruise Line, including the second Shaq's Big Chicken restaurant at sea. Now, a really strange photo has been making its way around the internet, showing a cruise ship literally hovering in mid-air off the Florida coast. And we turn to Fox 35 Orlando to learn a little bit more about what's going on here in this mystery photo. Photo shows hovering cruise ship off the Florida coast, a viewer says. And here is the photo in question, taken by Jeff Brogley from Satellite Beach, Florida. An odd sight off the Florida coast was spotted on Monday by a Fox 35 viewer. As described by the viewer, Fox 35 received a photo from Jeff Brogley of a hovering cruise ship last week. Jeff explained he took the photo of the Carnival Ecstasy around noon on Monday off his balcony in Satellite Beach. And a quote from Jeff says, "There is fog between my vantage point and the ship. This gives the optical illusion that the ship is floating." So we'll go ahead and take one last look at the photo of the Carnival Ecstasy just hovering there off the Florida coast. So it's always pretty fun to cover a lighthearted story kind of like that. If you have any interesting pictures or videos from your last cruise or a cruise you're on right now, why don't you do me a huge favor and share them with the Midships Facebook? All you have to do to get there is go to facebook.com/Midships. I'll even leave a link up here in the upper right-hand corner. And while you're clicking around this video, why don't you check out the description box below? There you can find links to all of the articles that we reference in today's Midships episode. And at the very top of my description box, there are always Amazon affiliate links that will take you to some really cool cruise swag, things that I use on every single cruise. And now I know we're getting close to Christmas, and it's a great time to start thinking about gifts for the cruiser in your life. So why not go ahead and start with that list? Most of the items you'll find there cost maybe about 10 bucks. So they make a great stocking stuffer, and you'll be giving back to the Midships channel just a little bit. Now, Royal Caribbean is making some more news as they've recently updated their pre-cruise testing policy. So I'd like to share with you the changes that'll be going into effect for Royal Caribbean. From cruiseradio.net by Sarah Bretz. Royal Caribbean updates pre-cruise testing policy. Royal Caribbean International has updated their pre-cruise embarkation day testing policy for unvaccinated kids between ages of 2 and 11. The update applies to North American and San Juan departures on or after December 17th of this year. In an email to travel agents, the line says it's shifted around the testing requirements. And the quote from the email says, "We'll now accept a negative PCR test result to satisfy the pre-cruise testing requirement for this age group. Additionally, instead of taking a PCR test at embarkation, unvaccinated guests aged 2 through 11 will receive a complimentary antigen test. This change will allow for a smoother start to our young cruisers, embarkation and sailing. As for those 12 years and older, the rules will be the same. They must be fully vaccinated at least 2 weeks before departing on their cruise. Those 12 and under who are fully vaccinated should follow the following guidance, and that is they do need to receive a pre-embarkation test 2 days before their sailing, and it can be either PCR or antigen testing. A couple days ago, I covered a so-called outbreak aboard the Norwegian Breakaway where COVID cases had reached into the double digits. Well, now that the Breakaway has officially returned to New Orleans, there's even more cases that have been identified, and I want to go ahead and give you the cruise line's response to what's going on. Plus, we'll also detail a case of the mysterious Omicron variant that's been found on board. From cruiseindustrynews.com by Richard Sims, Norwegian Cruise Line details Breakaway COVID cases and responds. As Norwegian Cruise Line's Breakaway made its way back to New Orleans this weekend, word came down that 10 people on board had been confirmed as testing positive with COVID-19. By Sunday evening, the number had risen to 17. In a statement, Norwegian Cruise Line said that they had identified a handful of cases amongst guests and crew on board the Breakaway. Now, to me, a handful means about 5 cases. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but go ahead and correct me in the comments below. They added that all of the identified cases on board are asymptomatic, in addition to requiring that 100% of guests and crew be fully vaccinated. Per the company's comprehensive health and safety protocols, Norwegian has implemented quarantine, isolation, and contact tracing procedures for identified cases. In addition, Norwegian had all passengers and crew undergo testing before they disembarked on Sunday morning. Announcements were made on board the ship Sunday regarding the testing, with guests called deck by deck to be tested, with the process taking place in the Manhattan dining room. Any guests who tested positive will travel by personal vehicle to their personal residence or self-isolate in accommodations provided by Norwegian Cruise Lines. The Breakaway had departed New Orleans on November 28th before sailing to Belize, Honduras, and Mexico with approximately 3,200 people aboard. As for the voyage that departed on Sunday, December 5th, Norwegian's statement indicated that there have been no changes to the schedule for future sailings, adding that they would provide additional updates to impacted guests as appropriate. And by mid-afternoon on Sunday, guests were being tested and had begun boarding the Breakaway. While some media outlets, especially those in New Orleans, were quick to catastrophize the situation, others countered that carefully developed health and safety protocols worked exactly as they were intended. Norwegian Cruise Lines currently sails with fully vaccinated guests and crew, and also requires negative testing be obtained at the pier before boarding. Because of these precautions, they do not require guests to wear masks or social distance while on board. So like I always say, the health and safety protocols that have been put in place on board these cruise ships are one of the strictest, if not the strictest, of any in the travel industry that can be found out there. Nowhere else can you find an environment where people are completely vaccinated against COVID-19, as well as everybody around you has been tested and is known to be negative, at least at the time of embarkation. Now, the Omicron variant has been in the news big time lately, and a suspected Omicron case was even found on board the Norwegian Breakaway. So we have to go ahead and talk about that now. In an article from Reuters.com by Maria Caspiani, suspected Omicron case aboard Norwegian cruise ship is South African crew member. A South African crew member suspected of having the Omicron variant of COVID-19 is amongst the 17 cases of the virus detected on a cruise ship that disembarked in New Orleans over the weekend. U.S. officials are closely monitoring the latest variant, which has been detected in at least a third of states. Norwegian Cruise Lines Holdings said the crew member on the Norwegian Breakaway was in isolation for the entirety of the cruise that departed New Orleans on November 28th. As they disembarked on Sunday, some passengers said they were not alerted about the outbreak while on board the vessel. And we have a quote from Frank Solsa, one of the passengers on board the Breakaway. Frank says, "I mean, they tested everybody yesterday, but they didn't tell us. I found out on Facebook, and I think it's extremely irresponsible," end quote. At the start of the pandemic, outbreaks on ships prompted health officials to suspend cruising. The outbreak on board the Breakaway is smaller than others recorded in recent months by the US CDC. For instance, we saw almost 30 cases on board the Carnival Vista, and from June 26th through October 21st of this year, there were 1,359 confirmed coronavirus cases reported by the CDC on cruise ships. And it's important to keep in mind when you hear a number like 1,300, you need to remember that there are thousands and thousands, perhaps almost hundreds of thousands of people who sailed in that time frame. Now, as we near the end of today's episode, I want to send my personal condolences out to a colleague in the industry, Doug Parker. Doug runs the website and the YouTube channel cruiseradio.net. Now, I'd like to go ahead and show you a little clipping from Doug's website. Now, just a few hours ago when I was getting ready to film this episode, I saw that Doug wrote a beautiful blog post in remembrance of Captain Douglas Parker. Now, that's Doug's father. Doug recently lost his father, and today's the day that he has made this news public. And we here at the Midships family send our condolences and our love to you, Doug, for the loss of your father. Now, if you'd like to send your personal condolences to Doug, or if you've never seen any of the content that Doug puts out, I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel as well as his website in the description below. I would encourage all of you to go ahead and check it out. If you love receiving cruise news, Doug puts out a daily about 2 or 3 minute video that gives an absolutely wonderful update on the cruise news of the day. If you made it this far into today's episode, why haven't you subscribed to the channel? While you're down there, go ahead and smash the thumbs up button if you absolutely can't wait to be on board your next cruise. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today, and until tomorrow, we'll see you on the Midships.